Picture yourself standing at the dealership, keys in your hand, staring at a shiny new car with a badge you have trusted your whole life. The salesman is smiling, the price feels right, and you have no idea that the company behind that badge is quietly packing up and leaving America. That is the trap I want to keep you out of today. 10 big car brands are slipping out the back door, and seniors are the ones getting hurt worst. I learned this the hard way, standing in an empty service bay, holding a repair estimate for a car nobody would touch. I promise you this, by the end, I will hand you a simple test I found buried in an old automotive filing, one you can do from your kitchen phone this week, that tells you if a brand is about to abandon you before you ever sign a thing. I still remember the smell of that showroom back in the spring of 2003. The coffee, the new tires, my late wife squeezing my arm because we finally had the money for something nice. And I want you to have what I did not have that day, the truth. So let me start where it started, with me, because I was the fool who thought a famous name meant a safe choice. Years ago, I bought a car from a brand every American knew, a household name. My father drove one, my grandfather drove one. When I signed those papers, I felt like I was buying into something permanent, something that would always be there. The dealership was 10 minutes from my house. Big lot, big flags, a service department with 12 bays. I figured that building would outlive me. It did not outlive the loan. Within a few years, that brand was gone, wiped off the map, and here is what nobody warned me about, the part that still makes my stomach turn. When a car brand dies, your car does not die with dignity. It becomes an orphan. The word they actually use in the trade is orphan car. And an orphan car turns your daily life upside down in ways you cannot imagine until it happens to you. First, the dealership closed. That big service department with 12 bays became a payday loan office. Then the parts got hard to find. A simple sensor that should have cost $40 suddenly took 3 weeks to arrive and cost almost $200. Then my regular mechanic, a good honest man, told me flat out he did not want to work on it anymore because he could not get the diagnostic software updates. I sat in his garage and felt something I had not felt since I was a young man with no money. I felt stuck, trapped by a machine I had paid good money for, betrayed by a name I had trusted since childhood, and when I finally tried to sell it, the offers came in so low I actually laughed out loud. Huh. A dealer looked at me with real pity and said the quiet part out loud. He said, "Nobody wants a car they cannot get parts for." My car had lost thousands of dollars in value overnight, not because it drove badly, but because the company behind it had walked away. That is the moment this all started for me. I promised myself I would never be caught blind again. And I promised myself that if I ever figured out how to see it coming, I would tell every senior who would listen. Because it is happening again right now, bigger than ever, and most people my age have no idea. But here is the question that kept me up at night, and it is the question you should be asking too. If this keeps happening over and over, decade after decade, then somebody must know it is coming. Somebody always knows before we do. So who benefits from you not knowing? Let me tell you what I found, because it made me angry. When a car company decides to leave a market, they do not take out a full-page ad and warn you. That would crush their sales overnight. Instead, they do it quietly. They keep the showrooms open, they keep the ads running, they keep smiling and selling right up until the last possible day, because every car they move before the announcement is money in their pocket and a problem dumped in your driveway. I want you to remember something you lived through, because you already know this story, even if you never named it. Think back to Oldsmobile, a brand born in 1897, more than 100 years old. Your parents probably rode in one. General Motors announced the end of Oldsmobile in December of the year 2000, but the very last one did not roll off the line until 2004. That means for years, dealers kept selling a brand they knew was dead to customers who trusted it. Now think about Pontiac, gone in 2010, Saturn, gone in 2010. Mercury, gone in 2011. Hummer, shut down in that same stretch. Plymouth, gone in 2001. These were not tiny nobody brands. These were names on millions of American driveways. And when they vanished, millions of owners became orphans overnight. Here is the number that stopped me cold. When those brands closed, studies of used car values showed that discontinued models could lose an extra 10 to 20% of their resale value on top of normal depreciation in the first year alone after a shutdown announcement on a $30,000 car. That is thousands of dollars gone, not because you did anything wrong, but because you bought a name that quietly died. And who profits? The company already banked your money. The dealer already made the sale. The only person left holding the loss is you, standing in your driveway, with a car that just became an orphan. That is the villain here. Not a person, but a pattern. A quiet business decision to keep selling you a sinking ship and let you find out after the lifeboats are gone. And once I understood that pattern, I started watching the market like a hawk. What I saw for 2026 honestly scared me, because it is not one brand this time. By my count, and by the reports coming out of the trade press, there are at least 10 big names right now that are either pulling back hard, shrinking to almost nothing, or already circling the drain. And seniors, who tend to buy for reliability and keep their cars 10 or 15 years, are exactly the people who will get burned. So let me walk you through them, not to scare you, but to arm you. Let me start with the one that shocked me most, because it is a luxury name people practically worship. Jaguar. This is a brand more than 90 years old, built in 1935. And in the last couple of years, Jaguar has done something almost unheard of. They stopped selling most of their cars in America while they try to reinvent themselves as an all-electric brand. Walk into what used to be a Jaguar showroom, and you may find almost nothing new to buy. If you own an older gas Jaguar, ask yourself, when they finish this reinvention, who is going to stock parts for the car sitting in my garage? Next, Infiniti. This was Nissan's luxury brand, launched in 1989 with a lot of fanfare. Today, its lineup has shrunk to just a handful of models, and its dealer network has been thinning out for years. A luxury brand with almost nothing left to sell is a brand quietly heading for the exit. Then there is Chrysler. Now this one hurts, because Chrysler is as American as it gets. But look at what is actually on the lot. For a long stretch, Chrysler was down to essentially one vehicle, the Pacifica minivan, one vehicle. A brand founded in 1925, reduced to a single model. When a company stops giving a brand new products, that is not a strategy. That is a slow goodbye. But before I go further, I need to stop and talk to somebody specific. Maybe you are sitting there thinking, this is all well and good, but I am not a car expert. I do not know engines. I do not have a computer to research all this. I do not have a son in the business to call. Maybe you feel like protecting yourself from this requires knowledge you just do not have. I made this next part especially for you, because I felt exactly the same way. And what I am about to show you needs nothing but the telephone you already own and about 15 minutes of your time. Here is the simplest protection I know. And you can do it today, alone, sitting in your favorite chair. Before you ever fall in love with a car, before you ever walk on a lot, pick up the phone and call 3 independent repair shops in your town, not the dealership, independent mechanics, and ask them one plain question. If I buy this brand, can you get parts and service it 5 years from now? Listen closely to how they answer. If they say, "Oh, sure, no problem. We work on those all day," you are looking at a healthy brand with a deep parts supply. But if you hear them pause, if you hear them say, "Well, that one is tricky," or "You have to order everything special," or "I would not," honestly, that hesitation is worth more than any brochure. Working mechanics know which brands are dying long before the news does, because they are the ones who cannot get the parts. I have done this myself, standing at my kitchen counter with a cup of coffee, 3 phone calls, 15 minutes. And I promise you, the second or third mechanic will tell you something the salesman never will. That one trick alone would have saved me thousands of dollars and 2 years of headaches. It costs you nothing but the courage to dial. That is the knowledge that used to be common sense, and I want to make sure you have every tool available to go even deeper. Everything I have shared with you today, the warning signs, the survival test, the questions that make dealers squirm, I pulled it all together and laid it out step by step in my book. Whether you are looking at smart keys, deep senior edge, or deal done, each one is built around the same idea, giving you back the practical knowledge that slick marketing tried to bury. The details on how to find it are in the description below. If someone you love is about to sign papers on a new car, this is the thing I wish someone had handed me before I walked into that showroom in 2003. Now let me get back to the list, because it gets worse. And the next few brands are ones people fall in love with by the look alone. Take Mitsubishi. This is a brand that has been whispered about leaving America for over a decade. Their lineup in the States has shrunk to a small handful of models, and they have leaned hard on long warranties to keep buyers interested. Now here is the trap in that. A 10-year warranty sounds wonderful, safe as a bank. But a warranty is only worth something if there is still a company and a dealer network around to honor it. A long warranty from a shrinking brand can be a promise written in disappearing ink. Then there are the Italian beauties, Alfa Romeo and Maserati, gorgeous cars. I understand the temptation completely, but their sales in America have collapsed to a trickle, and reports out of their parent company have openly questioned their future in this market. When a brand sells only a few thousand cars a year across this entire enormous country, the parts supply and the service network get thin fast. That beautiful Italian coupe can become the most expensive paperweight in your garage. And therefore I have to tell you about the ones that should scare every senior the most, the new brands that promised the moon and then vanished almost overnight. Fisker. This was a shiny new electric car company that a lot of people got genuinely excited about. They sold their electric SUV to real customers, real people who handed over real money. And then, in 2024, the company filed for bankruptcy. Just like that. Owners were left with expensive electric vehicles and enormous confusion about who would service them, update the software, or supply the parts. Imagine handing over $60,000 for a car, and within a year or two, the company that built it simply ceases to exist. That is not a horror story. That happened, and it happened recently. VinFast is another newcomer, a company from overseas that arrived in America with big promises and big spending. But the reports on their sales and their finances have been rocky, with heavy losses and questions about how long they can keep pouring money into the American market. When a brand new company is losing money hand over fist just to get started, you have to ask yourself, what happens to my car if they decide America was a mistake? Now, I want to be fair and careful here, because I am not in the business of scaring you off every car in America. Some of the names on my list are giants that are not going anywhere entirely, but are pulling back so hard in certain areas that you still need your eyes open. Dodge, for instance, a legendary American name. But their lineup has been squeezed down and shaken up dramatically, with beloved models discontinued and the whole brand pushed toward an electric future that longtime buyers are not sure they want. Fewer models means fewer dealers bother to stock parts, and that affects you down the road. And even Nissan itself, the big parent company, has been going through serious financial trouble, with reports of plant closures, deep cost cutting, and shaky earnings. When the mothership is struggling, the smaller brands underneath it, like the Infiniti I already mentioned, are always the first to get cut loose. So, there is your 10, the names I would tell my own brother to be careful with in 2026. Jaguar pulling back to almost nothing, Infiniti shrinking to a shadow, Chrysler down to a whisper of what it was, Mitsubishi hanging on by a warranty, Alfa Romeo and Maserati selling barely a trickle, Fisker already collapsed, VinFast bleeding money, Dodge gutting its lineup, and Nissan itself under real financial strain. But knowing the names is not enough, because next year there will be a different list, and the year after that another one. Names change. The pattern never does. So what you really need is not my list. What you need is the ability to see the collapse coming yourself before anyone announces a thing. And that is exactly what I found buried in the research, the thing I have been building up to this whole time. Here is the secret, and I want you to lean in, because this is the part almost nobody tells you. For years, I assumed that when a car brand died, everyone was equally out of luck. Turns out that is not true at all. There is a reason some orphan brands leave their owners completely stranded while others keep running smoothly for a decade or more. And the answer lives in something most buyers have never even heard of. When I dug into how this actually works, I found my way to the language of state franchise laws and the dealer agreements that sit underneath every car brand in America. And buried in there is a concept the industry quietly relies on. Many states have laws that require a manufacturer, when it discontinues a brand or terminates its dealers, to keep supplying repair parts for a set period, often around 1 to 2 years, and in some cases to buy back parts, and even help owners. When General Motors shut down Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Saturn, they publicly committed to supplying parts and honoring warranties for years afterward precisely because these obligations existed. That is why an old Oldsmobile stayed drivable long after the brand was buried, while a brand that simply goes bankrupt and vanishes, like a Fisker, leaves you with nothing. I also learned about a federal law from 1975 called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. That law protects your right to have your car serviced by an independent mechanic without automatically voiding your warranty. In plain English, it means you are not chained to the dealership. And that is the doorway to the real method, the one I promised you at the start. Here is the finale, the whole thing put together, and it is so simple you will wonder why no salesman ever told you. Before you buy any car, especially from any brand on that list, you run what I call the survival test, and it has 3 quick steps. Step 1, the phone calls I already gave you. 3 independent mechanics. 1 question, do you service this brand? And can you get the parts? You are testing the real-world parts supply, the thing that actually keeps a car alive. Step 2, and this is the buried gem. You ask the dealer directly, in writing if you can, 1 pointed question. If this brand is discontinued, what is the manufacturer's committed parts and warranty support, and for how many years? A healthy brand will have a clear answer. A dying brand will squirm, dodge, or admit they do not know. Their discomfort is your answer. And because of those state franchise laws in that 1975 Federal Act, you have every right to ask and to expect the truth. Step 3. You check the brand's own footprint with your own eyes. How many models does it sell right now? A brand with 1 or 2 models is a brand on life support. How many dealers are within a reasonable drive of your home? When I bought my Orphan, there were 4 dealers within 30 miles. Within 3 years, there were 0. If there is only 1 dealer serving your whole region, you are 1 closure away from being stranded. Run those 3 steps and you will know more about a brand's future than the man trying to sell it to you. You will see the collapse coming from a mile away, the same way those working mechanics do. That is the knowledge that used to be common sense, back when a car was a 15-year investment and folks talked to each other about which brands stood behind their products. It got buried under glossy advertising and easy financing, and now you have it back. I think about that empty service bay sometimes, the one where my honest mechanic told me he could not help me anymore. I think about how alone I felt and how avoidable it all was. Nobody handed me a warning. Nobody gave me a test to run. So today I handed it to you, and that means 1 more senior will not get quietly left behind in an empty driveway. You are the kind of person who knows that a famous name is not the same as an honest promise. You are the kind of person who would rather ask 3 hard questions today than lose thousands of dollars tomorrow. That instinct, that refusal to be led around by a smiling salesman, is exactly what protects you when the whole industry is hoping you will not look too closely. So let me ask you something, and I truly want you to answer. Have you ever owned an orphan car, a Pontiac, an Oldsmobile, a Saturn, a Mercury, or one of these newer brands that vanished? What did it cost you when the parts dried up? Type it in the comments below and tell me the brand and the year. I read them, and other seniors read them too, and your story might be the exact warning that saves someone from signing those papers next week. Please, take a moment and leave that comment. This audience learns from each other, and your experience matters. And if you want to keep recovering this kind of practical, honest knowledge, the kind that convenience, culture, and slick marketing tried to bury, come join us. This is a growing circle of people who refuse to be kept in the dark and paying for it. Subscribe and stand with us, because next time I am going to show you the 3 specific years in a car's life when dealers make the most money off senior buyers, and the one simple sentence you can say on the lot that makes that overcharge disappear. You will not want to miss it. Take care of yourself, protect your money, and never let a badge on the hood make your decisions for you. I still owe you the best part. Inside the Wiser Living Circle, I continue that badge death warning test brand by brand, right where I stopped, so you can check any car before you sign. And you can ask me your own question there. A real person answers. Me or my team, never a machine. You're not doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on your screen, and you can cancel anytime.